A goal is to win another championship.
That is the goal right now, and that is the motivation right now.
I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
This would definitely be a trio to be reckoned with.
LeBron James delivering AD dynamite.
Westbrook, he just doesn't stop.
I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
All right, we'll see what the Lakers are all about. Welcome back to The Jump. I'm George Sedano, alongside ESPN NBA writer Tim Bontemps, the undefeated Clinton Yates, and the world-famous NBA reporter Nick Friedel now joins us. All right, you guys ready? Because it's time for another round of everyone's favorite game, Something, Nothing, or Everything. All right, first thing up here. Let's start with the Lakers. LeBron James and the Lakers made a flurry of offseason moves, including trading for Russell Westbrook, bringing in Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Malik Monk, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, Kendrick Nunn, among others. So, Nick, let's start with you. Lakers offseason moves are something, nothing, or everything.
This is a big something, George, because they've recreated essentially the 2012 All-Star team in 2021. I don't know what the hell is going to happen a few years down the line, but this is the team that is built to win this season. I don't know if they have enough to finish out in 82 games, but it is sure as hell going to be fun to watch, and the characters in play make this a day-to-day, real-life sports drama.
I mean, there's no question that that's true. I mean, the Lakers are going to be the most fascinating team in the league this year. But if you're talking about, is this going to change the Lakers' title chances? I think it's nothing. Because you look at this team, and I don't think they're better than last year's team. You know, last year's team had Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and a team that had one of the best defenses in the NBA. And they had a real identity. What is the identity of this Lakers team? They have to figure out how Russell Westbrook and LeBron James are going to play together. I don't think that fit's going to be great. They've brought in all these minimum players, some of them decent signings, you know, getting guys like Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, you know, Melo can come in and score for them off the bench. Kendrick Nunn was a nice mid-level signing. But it's hard to look at this Laker team and see, here's a coherent vision of how they're going to play. And I just think the fit with LeBron and Russ is going to be tough. I don't think the defense is going to be good enough. I just don't think this has raised their championship level the way that a lot of people do.
This is certainly something for me. I don't know that it raises their championship level, but the reason why a lot of people think they got bounced last year is because they got hurt late. And I actually do think Westbrook and LeBron fit together because it takes a little bit of the load off of both of them in terms of how they can coexist. I like the fact that even though they're old, they're all sort of aligned in mission. Melo's coming in there trying to figure something out in terms of what he can do late in his career. And I think that if Russell Westbrook is going to cut that usage rate for anybody on earth, it's going to be LeBron James and AD. And I like the Dwight Howard re-edition as well. Third stint in LA. It's like Tim Bontemps getting back here finally after like 2 years.
Hey, listen, we said 2 years ago when Russell Westbrook went to the Rockets, he was going to change playing with his childhood buddy James Harden. We said when Russell Westbrook went to the Wizards, he was going to change with Bradley Beal because he wanted to be there. Russell Westbrook is Allen Iverson. He is going to do what he's going to do. You know, he had the commercial, right? Now I do what I want. Russell Westbrook has always done what he wanted. That's the way he's always been. I do not see that changing with LeBron James. I think he's going to always do the same things he's always done, and I just don't think the fit is very good. And again, even bigger than that, the Lakers have been built on defense. This team, as constructed, I do not see them being able to guard the way they have the past couple of years. That's been the backbone of what's made them one of the best teams in the league.
Well, look, I look at it this way. Let's just start from an offensive perspective, and I think that you guys kind of alluded to this a little bit. Last year, if I recall the numbers correctly, and Jackie and Ramona and I talked about this yesterday, when LeBron's on the floor, they were the second best offense in the league, okay? When he was off the floor for one reason or another, whether it was injury or just rest, they were the 28th best offense in the league. I do think that you could start, if you're Frank Vogel, staggering some of those minutes a little bit, making sure Russ is on the floor when LeBron's not on the floor. I know those are limited minutes, but that's a good place to start. They also have David Fizdale on this coaching staff, who coached LeBron in Miami, who also played with a player similarly to Russell Westbrook in Dwayne Wade. And I'm not comparing the two. Dwayne Wade is a surefire Hall of Famer. I think Russ is on that trajectory as well. They're a little different, even stylistically, but neither was a floor spacer. And Dwayne adapted his game at a much younger age than Russell Westbrook is right now to be able to play around LeBron, became one of the best cutters in the league, and certainly that fit became a lot better after their first season together. Now, they don't have a lot of time, as Nick alluded to. I don't think this is a team that's going to be together forever. But I do think that if there's any time, Tim, that Russ is going to adapt, it's going to be with LeBron James. And if you tell me that LeBron James is going to be healthy this year, I kind of trust him to figure something like this out.
I mean, look, again, I'll say it again. Russell Westbrook has not done this in the past, and this is the same year, third year in a row, we've had the same refrain. I'll believe it when I see it,
Okay. We'll have to see it. We'll see how it unfolds. Let's go on to the next one here. Off to the Great Northwest, where Dame Lillard was shutting down a Lakers fan. Speaking of the Lakers, yesterday Dame responded to a Twitter user who tweeted, "How much y'all want to bet that before the NBA season starts, the Lakers will still get Damian Lillard?" Dame tweeted back, "Bet $1 million." Clinton, Dame clapping back at a fan on Twitter. Something, nothing, or everything.
Not unlike Gary Payton II's dunk in Summer League. This is everything, okay? Your boy is here for the clapbacks, all right? All y'all know that if you come in correct on the bird, I just might bang you out. No, I'm kidding. But I like this because it shows fan engagement, and he has a history of this. One time he was wearing a shirt, and some guy tried to get on him, and he told him it was a Lamborghini carpet, okay? Look at that, okay? That's A+ level Twitter game right there. This is everything to me. I love this.
Dame's incredible on Twitter. This is everything for me because the Lakers just traded everything they had to get Russell Westbrook. What are they trading for Damian Lillard? LeBron James? Anthony Davis? Like, sure, they could trade one of them to the Blazers. Blazers say, sure, we could do that. Anything short of that, they're going to say thanks, but no thanks, and hang up the phone. So that's why it's everything for me. It's a great tweet, and there's no chance of Dame coming to the Lakers.
Guys, this is nothing for me because I think Dame is so sick of all the attention that has been created in the last few weeks with where's he going to go. I don't think he's going to the Lakers. I still believe when all is said and done, if he goes anywhere, he's headed to the Knicks with Tibbs to play on the stage in Madison Square Garden. But in the meantime, I would be stunned if he started the year anywhere other than Portland. There's way too much time left on that deal, and I don't think any team is going to go all in right now knowing that there's so much uncertainty moving forward.
To your point, though, this is the guy everybody's going to be watching until he gets traded, right? Mm-hmm. Portland's going to be down in the play-in tournament range probably. He's already voiced earlier this summer that he needs the team to get better, to commit for him to realize it's a place where he can win long-term. They're kind of the same team they were last year. This is clearly something that's going to be hanging until there's some kind of resolution.
Yeah, look, I think it's nothing in regards to the Lakers, as you pointed out, Tim. I do think it's something in regards to, I just love Dame on Twitter, as Clinton said. Like, I just love the fact that he is so active on Twitter. All right, let's shift gears to the Bay Area, where Dame is from originally. In an interview with Carmelo Anthony's What's in Your Glass podcast. I love this, a wine podcast. Steph Curry discusses his desire to play in the 2024 Olympics. Let's take a listen.
Will we see you in Paris in 24?
I mean, I hope so, bro. Like this year, I don't have any regrets about not playing. Just personally, wasn't the right time, and knowing that everything went this year, and looking forward to next year. But it is only 3 years away, so
that's a long time now, champ. That's a long time.
I know. You see, I'm trying to speak. I'm trying to will it and speak it into existence.
That's a long time.
Let's see if these legs can do what they need to do. But that would be an amazing opportunity. I haven't played in the Olympics, and that's what made this kind of summer decision extremely difficult. Knowing I hadn't had that opportunity, but we'd love to play.
What do you think Carmelo had in that glass? Was it a Cab, a Bordeaux?
I'm a Malbec guy. I need to know.
Pinot Noir, maybe? I mean, I had a nice Bordeaux at dinner last night.
He holds the stem. That was great.
It's so great. All right, so Nick, let's start with you. Steph wanting to play in the 2024 Olympics, something, nothing, or everything. You cover that team.
George, it's a little something, but it's not much. There are 3 years here. All Steph said in the last year and a half prior to the pandemic was, I'm playing in Tokyo. I'm going to Tokyo. I want to be there. And then all this stuff happened. He got hurt. He didn't go anymore. There's only 2 things left in an all-time great career like Steph's had to this point that he doesn't have now. Finals MVP and a gold medal. I'd be really surprised if he was able to get back to the finals. The gold medal is something he really wants. I think he really wants to go to Paris, but there is a long time, even 3 years between right now and what may happen a couple years down the line.
I'm going to say everything because the Olympics are in Paris in 3 years. And there's hopefully not going to be a pandemic at that point. I think you're going to see a ton of guys wanting to play in that Olympics. That's an awesome city. That's going to be, the first Olympics in 8 years where you don't have all this stuff going on this year, like in Tokyo, where you saw a lot of guys be iffy about having to go quarantine and sort of be in a bubble again. At that point, Steph will be 36. To your point, Nick, Obviously, he's done everything else in his career. And if he wants to be an Olympian, I think he'll be on the team. He's earned that cachet, I think, at this point. And look, with his shooting ability, even at 36, he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to help them in FIBA games in the Olympics. So I think as long as, like you said, he spent the last year and a half saying he played in Tokyo, but I think for a lot of reasons, I'm expecting Steph to play in Paris in 2024.
It's a big nothing for me. I just think USA basketball is a wayward thing. What are we trying to do here? Simply win gold medals by bringing old guys back from the NBA after they're done with the playoffs? Or are we trying to develop dudes into stars, perhaps to be somewhere else and have some continuity? Steph Curry at that age in the Olympics, it's just not a big thing for me. I don't gather with my boys to watch USA basketball, and neither do you. Trust me.
Okay. Well, I think it's something. I do think that to Nick's point on his resume, it's something that's missing at this point. And look, I just want to think that these guys want to do this because they also want to make the commitment. What we've seen here is over the last several Olympics, unlike 2008 with the Redeem team, that the commitments have become shorter and shorter and shorter. And I think that continuity is a thing as the rest of the world catches up. All right, Clinton, thank you so much. Go try a Malbec for lunch. A deal of $176.3 million to stay with the Clippers. Kawhi turned down his $36 million player option to become a free agent, but it was expected that he would stay in LA, of course. So Leonard is still recovering from a torn ACL that kept him out of the final 8 games of the playoffs, and he could miss some significant time in this upcoming season. So, Tim, I'll start with you. Are you surprised Kawhi signed this 4-year deal with the Clippers?
I am surprised, George, because around the league, even in Vegas this past few days at Summer League, where I was until you traded off with me today, the expectation was Kawhi Leonard was going to sign a 1+1 and stay with the Clippers for this season at least and go back into free agency next year when he could sign a 5-year Supermax deal and make a lot more money. And even if he was just trying to maximize his revenue this summer, he could have opted in and signed an extension off of that, as our cap expert Bobby Marks laid out yesterday, and made a bunch more money doing it that way. So it is interesting he chose to pick this direction, but now he lines up with the same contract as Paul George. They both have player options in 3 years, and it gives the Clippers a lot more flexibility than I think anybody in the league really was expecting them to have coming out of this summer.
I think for me, it also means that there's some level of stability as well as flexibility, because it's not like, oh, there's an injury. Oh, what's going on with his uncle? Oh, is he going to play? Oh, is he sitting in the crowd or is he sitting on the sit? Like, it finally means Kawhi is with the Clippers as well as PG, and we can get on with that particular portion of all of the variables, which is a good thing. I was getting, frankly, a little tired of hearing about Kawhi's every move every 2 seconds. I'd like to think that he wanted to be with this team to some degree for a decent amount of time, and this shows that even if he opts out at the end, he's committed to the next couple years because he knows that he's got a rehab and he's got some guys there that are counting on him.
Yeah, certainly that is great news for the Clippers organization. I don't think there's any question. By the way, an organization that hasn't had a ton of stability, more so recently, obviously, under Steve Ballmer, but historically, we all know that that's the case. But it is interesting, Tim, because you did mention the 1+1, and Bobby Marks, as you pointed out, mentioned that. Do we have the tweet, or do we have a graphic of what Kawhi's financial situation could have looked like? Because, again, here's what his extension is. You see the numbers there, 39, 42, 45, and 48 approximately, almost 49 in the last year of the deal. He could have signed a 4-year deal, $187 million extension if he had opted in to the $36 million player option for this upcoming season. And then the total would have been $223 million. So, Clinton, I'll go back to you real quick on Kawhi. Do you think that just the injury played a factor in this?
I do, and I think that probably plays a factor in psychologically, again, your rehab game. If you're thinking about contracts while you're trying to get your body together, I'm not a doctor, nor am I a capologist, as Bobby Marks, but I can tell you when your mind's on your money, your mind is not necessarily on your body in the same way. And listen, I realize we're arguing about tens of $1 million after the 150-plus mark. I understand that this is not necessarily, somebody who's picking for pennies here, but I do think it matters, and that's where the stability factor comes in. At some point, after guys like us are talking about him every single day, it's like, what, can we just do this so that I can get this done, and also so that my team understands what my commitment is. I think that's a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, and certainly if you look around the NBA, the way this played out, the fact that everybody went on with their business and got their stuff done, it wasn't like teams were waiting like a couple years ago to see where Kawhi Leonard was going to go. So the expectation was one way or the other, as Clinton said, he was going to be in LA. It's really just a matter of how he was going to decide to commit to his time. And this is a big thing for the Clippers. To get 3 years, as Clinton said, with stability there, it's a really big deal for them.
Yeah, and of course, producer Demetrius gets to just have a sigh of relief here now after the Clippers get their guys signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah, him and Clipper Darrell basically get to have a cocktail together, perhaps, to celebrate. All right, let's move on. Home run last night. The Field of Dreams game was awesome, and it had a perfect Hollywood ending with Tim Anderson of the White Sox smashing a walk-off home run over the New York Yankees. Clinton, you were at the game last night. Traveled all the way to LA to help us out here. How cool was the experience? And what do you think the NBA could do to do a version of Field of Dreams?
That was pretty cool. They did a lot, if you know what I'm saying. It was quite the production, if you get my meaning. There was a whole lot going on, but a lot of people liked it, and it looked great on TV. But let me tell you, the NBA version. I live in Venice Beach for one reason and one reason only. Because I walked into a movie theater after I saw a different movie, and I wasn't allowed to go into a rated R movie, but I saw White Men Can't Jump anyway, and guess what? 30 years later, I live there because it's that dope. Look, Muscle Beach, check it out. We got the handball courts. We got the lovely beaches. There's a skate park there as well. Tremendous graffiti walls as well. Just beautiful locale, all right? There's a reason why your boy's there almost every day, all right?
Free Agency Special, presented by Kia.
It's craziness here. It's free agency day. This is what happens. Welcome to those of you joining us on ESPN2 while NFL Live is over on ESPN1. Thank you to those of you who made the jump over with us. And I think we fixed Dave McMenamin's microphone. So we've got Ramona Shelburne, Dave, Kendrick Perkins, who stayed with us from ESPN. We are also going to welcome in Basketball Hall of Famer Chris Bosh. I'm going to just keep saying that over and over, Chris. And, I can't wait to see you with that jacket in just a couple months. We've got a lot of guests, too, throughout the next 4 hours. We are taking you through the beginning of NBA free agency and beyond, as they say. So we're in the middle of a conversation about the Lakers off season. And, Chris, I do want to get you in here because they don't have a lot of cap flexibility after the deals allotted to LeBron, Anthony Davis, and, Russell Westbrook, who just joined them. So you have been in this position with the Heat where you guys had little pieces around the edges, use vet minimums after a lot of the salary went to you guys with the Heat. So how do you think the Lakers should approach this, and how much work does LeBron or Anthony Davis have to do calling guys saying, I know it's going to be less money, but will you come play with us?
Well, I mean, free agency is all about working the phones. I think the presidents and GMs have their say-so, but, you definitely want to have a say-so if you're a player yourself. And I think that's a lot. It's very powerful if you get a call from somebody wanting to play with you, especially when you're going to have to take less money. But in the Lakers instance, they're the Lakers. They're always chasing championships. And anytime you're in the business of championships, this is the flexibility or the maneuvering or the finesse that you have to have. They're going to have to surround all of the talent that they have right now with Mark, with their big three, and make sure they get shooting around them. I think we all know that LeBron, he has his style that he likes to have shooters around him. We all know what Anthony Davis brings. He's going to bring the muscle in the paint that they need. But Russell Westbrook is also going to be a force in the paint. He's going to play his game and play full court. They're going to have to surround those guys with shooters and, hopefully get some bargain prices of them. And I know there's plenty of guys out there who will join the Lakers, and we'll see what happens today.
Well, look, I'm glad CB brought up shooting because I'm tired of everybody overemphasizing spacing and shooting, because we just saw in this year's finals the way that Giannis dominated. The Milwaukee Bucks did not shoot well from the three-point line at all. But as long as you have superstar power, you could get the job done, right? In the finals, it's all about your superstars rising to the occasion. We saw Caldwell Pope. We saw Danny Green. We saw those guys struggle when the Lakers made their first run. Now, I get it. If you could go out and get a JJ Redick on a vet minimum, then you got to go do that. If you can go out and get a Carmelo Anthony on the vet minimum, then you also got to go do that. I just feel like when it comes down to LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, this has been a plan that they have been thinking about for a very long time. We know all of these guys are close friends. We know that LeBron James is getting to a point of his time in his career where he's going to be willing to make the necessary sacrifices, meaning maybe having to play the power forward position. Anthony Davis having to make the sacrifice of playing the center position and playing and letting Russell Westbrook lead the charge. We know that Russell Westbrook could also be the facilitator on the team. Last year, he led the league in assists. He wants to get others involved. So I think when you have this much star power and you have a guy like Anthony Davis that could control the paint on both ends of the floor, then yeah, you could fill in the gaps a little bit. But with those three players, I like my chances.
Well, it is interesting, the gaps they do have to fill in. Dave, Perk just mentioned JJ Redick. Who do you think they are targeting?
Wow. Well, they're targeting a lot because they need to. There's 11 open roster spots as they head into free agency. It could be less if they retain some of their own guys. Alex Caruso, Talon Horton-Tucker, they've already tendered a qualifying offer for THT that would lend us to believe that they're going to match whatever comes on the outside as a restricted free agent. But then you have the mid-level exception, which isn't all that much money because they're a taxpayer, only $5.9 million. So you'll be asking some of these people that could get more money on the outside market to come, and the veteran minimum. And so they, Perk, you're great, but three-point shooting is a huge part of today's game. They were 21st in the league in threes last year, and Perk mentioned JJ Redick. That's a name. Wayne Ellington, a former Laker. There's another name. Trevor Ariza, Avery Bradley. And some of these guys, the good part about it, they can shoot the three, but they're not a one-dimensional player. They can provide the defensive intensity or certainly the veteran acumen that you bring to the group. But they got a lot of spots to fill, and it's going to be really interesting to see, do they target one player with this mid-level, or do they split it up and just say, we can offer you a little bit more than veteran minimum?
Well, it's certainly become more complicated just in terms of getting the right skill sets on the floor with Russ coming there. Obviously, the big stars felt like that was the move because we know they all got together. But Ramona, this is not the first time Russell Westbrook has tried to come to L.A., right? You had such an interesting detail this morning. Can you share that with our friends here?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting, this Russ move we've all talked about. I feel like I've been on this show several times and we've talked about it. But in the summer of 2019, when we were all talking about Kawhi coming to the Lakers, the Clippers are going back to the Lakers.
Would he bring someone with him?
Yeah, would he go there alone? One of the guys who took matters into his own hands was Russell Westbrook. Called up Kawhi and said, hey, I'm from LA, you're from LA. Is there a way we can make this work? Kawhi wasn't all that interested in that.
That's amazing.
Kawhi ends up calling Paul Jordan saying, hey, I'd rather go with you, but you should just know that I had a conversation with your guy, so if you don't want to...
So Kawhi basically said to Paul George, who was teammates with Russell Westbrook, and we remember the whole press conference and the concert and the whole thing, it's going to be the two of them. Kawhi called PG and said, hey, I don't know if you know this, Russ is looking to leave, maybe you should leave and come with me instead.
Here's what's, it's not so much that Russ was looking to leave. Russ was just, hey, what do you think? We're from LA. Could this work? It was just one of those thought bubble conversations. The same kind of thought bubble conversation Russ has been having with LeBron James for the past couple of weeks. The conversations he's had with Bradley Beal over the last couple of weeks. Line, let's do the same thing. This was just a conversation. It wasn't like, hey, let's act on this.
Well, but Kawhi acted.
Look, Kaiser Sose over there, okay?
Right?
Kawhi is a mastermind, and it was. I'd heard about this for a little while. I finally was able to confirm it up, but it does speak to the amount that Westbrook has been trying to get back to Los Angeles for a couple of years here. And I think what really sealed this for the Lakers, they had the trade for Buddy Hield. They woke up that morning thinking they were doing the trade for Buddy Hield. But when Russ saw those reports of how serious the Buddy Hield trade was, he's been talking to LeBron the whole time. He kind of knew, hey, it didn't work out the last time, but if I'm ever going to get back to my hometown, this is the time. So Russ and his agent, Thad Fouché, who, by the way, 3 trades in 3 years, and everywhere you leave, they send a press release saying, thank you for your efforts.
Right. Yeah.
It seems pretty well handled. Went to Tommy Shepard and said, look, we're happy to play here. We like it here in Washington, but if there's a way to get back to Los Angeles, if there's a trade with Los Angeles, today would be the day to do it because it's the draft. And he knew this would be the moment that Washington could get the most value for him. So if he wasn't going to be there, he wanted to do right by the Wizards, right by Brad Beal, but also if there's a way to get back to his hometown, make that that call.
There we go. Well, with him there, that changes the landscape in Los Angeles once again. And we know there are two teams here that have a bit of a rivalry with each other that's been ratcheted up over the last couple seasons. So I want to talk Clippers as well. It was their first ever conference finals appearance this past season. Dave, what expectations do you have for the Clippers this summer now that a rehabbing Kawhi, he's a free agent? We do expect him to Ibaka opted into the last year of his deal, so being an LA insider here,
yeah, I mean,
what do you expect?
The Ibaka move is kind of their free agent acquisition, considering they didn't get to have him in the playoffs during that run that got so far. But, you know, what are they going to do with Reggie Jackson, who was such a huge part of their playoff run? You know, Nick Batum, another guy hitting the free agent market, who was really a nice signing for them, unexpected surprise, I think, for a lot of folks. So they got to look in-house, I think, before they start looking how they're going to fill out the rest of the roster.
Yeah, the Clippers have been really active trying to say, we're not going to just mail it in this year just because Kawhi's not there. They still want to win. They still have a team that was in the Western Conference Finals and had a really good season.
Free Agency Special, presented by Kia.
It's craziness here. It's free agency day. This is what happens. Welcome to those of you joining us on ESPN2 while NFL Live is over on ESPN1. Thank you to those of you who made the jump over with us. And I think we fixed Dave McMenamin's microphone. So we've got Ramona Shelburne, Dave, Kendrick Perkins, who stayed with us from ESPN. We are also going to welcome in Basketball Hall of Famer Chris Bosh. I'm going to just keep saying that over and over, Chris. And, you know, I can't wait to see you with that jacket in just a couple months. We've got a lot of guests too throughout the next 4 hours. We are taking you through the beginning of NBA free agency and beyond, as they say. So we're in the middle of a conversation about the Lakers off season. And Chris, I do want to get you in here because they don't have a lot of cap flexibility after the deals allotted to LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, who just joined them. So you have been in this position with the Heat where you guys had to add little pieces around the edges, use vet minimums after a lot of the salary went to you guys with the Heat. So how do you think the Lakers should approach this, and how much work does LeBron or Anthony Davis have to do calling guys saying, I know it's going to be less money, but will you come play with us?
Well, I mean, free agency is all about working the phones. I think the presidents and GMs have their say-so, but, you know, you definitely want to have a say-so if you're a player yourself. And I think that's a lot. It's very powerful if you get a call from somebody wanting to play with you, especially when you're going to have to take less money. But in the Lakers instance, they're the Lakers. They're always chasing championships. And anytime you're in the business of championships, this is the flexibility or the maneuvering or the finesse that you have to have. They're going to have to surround all of the talent that they have right now with Mark, with their big three, and make sure they get shooting around them. I think we all know that LeBron, he has his style that he likes to have shooters around him. We all know what Anthony Davis brings. He's going to bring the muscle in the paint that they need. But Russell Westbrook is also going to be a force in the paint. He's going to play his game and play full court. They're going to have to surround those guys with shooters and, you know, hopefully get some bargain prices of them. And I know there's plenty of guys out there who will join the Lakers, and we'll see what happens today.
Well, look, I'm glad CB brought up shooting because I'm tired of everybody overemphasizing spacing and shooting, because we just saw in this year's finals the way that Giannis dominated. The Milwaukee Bucks did not shoot well from the three-point line at all. But as long as you have superstar power, you could get the job done, right? In the finals, it's all about your superstars rising to the occasion. We saw Caldwell Pope. We saw Danny Green. We saw those guys struggle when the Lakers made their first run. Now, I get it. If you could go out and get a JJ Redick on a vet minimum, then you got to go do that. If you can go out and get a Carmelo Anthony on the vet minimum, then you also got to go do that. I just feel like when it comes down to LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, this has been a plan that they have been thinking about for a very long time. We know all of these guys are close friends. We know that LeBron James is getting to a point of his time in his career where he's going to be willing to make the necessary sacrifices, meaning maybe having to play the power forward position. Anthony Davis having to make the sacrifice of playing the center position and playing and letting Russell Westbrook lead the charge. We know that Russell Westbrook could also be the facilitator on the team. Last year, he led the league in assists. He wants to get others involved. So I think when you have this much star power and you have a guy like Anthony Davis that